Good afternoon. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Mind, where we talk about different things related to mental health. I'm your host, Nimade, or That African Butterfly, as I'm known on social media, and I'm really excited to have a guest with me. Today, I have Demon Soul of a Man Alverez. He is a seven-time author. He travels, he does podcast hosting, he's a mental and spiritual wellness expert, creative writer, consulting. You do so many things. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
So before, I introduced you a little bit. Is there anything else you'd like to say to anybody, to everyone, to introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about you?
Like the gracious host said, my name is Desmond Alverez. On social media, I am known as Mr. Soul of a Man 504. You know, not only am I a multi-genre and multifaceted author, but I'm also a keynote speaker on the topics of sorry, my mind just went blank, of spirituality and mental wellness as well. And I do a lot of traveling, and on the back end of it.
Nice. Now, as you know, as keynote speaker and mental health or mental wellness consultant, right, all the things you do, what really inspired you to focus on your life and the topic of mental health with your work?
Well, mental health is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart because it's something that I go through myself and something that I've had to master and I've had to overcome it. It's something that it's almost, people talk about these generational curses and stuff like that. So it's almost been something where me personally, I've had to break that. I've had to break that for my family's lineage and for my family's line. Was it easy? No, it was not. By no sense of the means. Because mentally you're always stuck in your mind, and the mind is a very, very, very powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we think and we talk about like mental health, mental illness, how do you define mental wellness? Like, what are some key like principle or characteristics that you think of when you think of mental wellness specifically?
Mental wellness is being in a great state of mind, being present, knowing who and where you are mentally, and having a clear and strong and powerful mindset. The mind can set the tone for so many things within our lives, and it sets the tone for how we see things across the board, and especially like when you're looking at that person in the mirror. Everybody in the world could say, hey, you're the most beautiful person on the planet, and you might look at yourself and are like, you know. So it's yeah, so something like that. I would sum it up as.
I think that that's a great point and also a great example because it really is a matter of like what you think about yourself. Because no matter what other people say, if you don't feel it inside yourself, it doesn't really matter. Like you hear it and you think like, oh, they're just being nice, they're just being whatever. But once you feel it, then you can go on with that. And also then nobody can tell you anything because you're like, this is how I think and feel about myself. So that mental fortitude, I think, is very important.
Right. Yeah. It's very, very it's crucial, especially in a world where it seems everything's happening so fast, and it just seems like at times that nobody cares. So you have to. It's very important that you care about your life and what's going on with you.
Now, something I frequently say to people is, the only opinion that matters about yourself is how you feel about yourself.
Right.
And I always give the example because everybody can't and won't agree on anything, right? And I find that people so often are fine and comfortable with defending others in a way that they wouldn't defend themselves. Like if someone says something about Beyonce, she's usually my go-to example. And if someone came up to me and was like, I don't like Beyonce, she can't sing, I'd be like, well, you're wrong. Like them saying that wouldn't make me question if Beyonce is a good singer, wouldn't make me question if she's great. And so many people are like that. But then when it comes to themselves, if someone says it about them, they're like, oh my goodness, maybe this person is right. Maybe all of these awful things. And it's like, well, if you wouldn't let someone talk about you and make you cast doubt in your favorite celebrity, actor, singer, whatever, like, why would you let them cast doubt in yourself? Because it's still just their opinion, right? So, like, what are some ways that you would suggest to people to sort of help grow that internal strength or that mental strength to be able to withstand the opinions of others?
It's like you said. I mean, you said it so, so beautifully, so honestly. Like your opinion at the beginning and at the end of the day is gonna, that's gonna be the all end all. It's important that you as an individual, you are proud of who you are and where you come from. There's a lot of people can dish it out, but a lot of people can't take it. It's easy to, it's easy to, it's easy to have Twitter fingers, go on social media, say something about some celebrity, just anybody out there, or you go on your job, so to speak, and you may see everybody else, getting their, it may feel like you go on your job and you may feel like everybody is getting like these kudos, so to speak, and you're sitting there like, like, what in the world, what am I doing wrong? Is it me? Is it how I'm dressed? Is it how I
Right.
look? And it's probably none of the above. It's just probably a thing where you're around, you're a round peg, and you don't fit into their little square or whatever you want to call that. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's it's very important that you hold yourself in the highest of esteem. And there's so many different things nowadays, with social media, the internet, that's that's talking about these things.
Mm-hmm.
There are crisis intervention hotlines that you can call, that maybe we didn't have back in the day. Maybe if we did, more people would probably be here today. But it's important to really and truly have that self accountability about who you are and what you're trying to do, and not let anybody or anything devalue who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a few comments coming in. Hello to everyone joining us. Hi, Izzy. Charles said, if you don't praise yourself, no one else will. And you have to not only say it, but believe it, which is so, so true. I am a big believer in affirmations. What's funny is that I actually grew up with them without knowing that that's what they were or that's what they were called. My mom just had like a little thing she would say to us whenever we were leaving the house, which is, keep your head up high. Don't let anyone put you down. You can do anything you put your mind to. I'm proud of you. I love you. And she would say it to the point where, like, we would be on the way out the house, like, yeah, mom, we got it. We're proud of us. Keep our head up. We got it. Love you. Bye. But like now as an adult, I realize how those words really are the foundation of who I am as a person, right? Like you can't tell me that there's anything I can't do, because I really do think that I can do whatever I put my mind to. And she laid those foundations. And so I think affirmations, now that there's a word attached to it and more people are doing it, I think are very important. So like, what are your, like, are you a pro affirmations person? And if so, do you have any go-tos?
Interesting you say that. I actually wrote a book about affirmations. It is entitled Lyrical Soul, Lyrical Quotes for Her Mind, Body, and Spirit. And, there's about 100 different quotes in there, for women all across the board, to speak life and to their life, because that is very, very, very key. As far as just having one, I mean, I have many things that I look at, for because I know words are very, very, very powerful.
Mhm.
Like, if you believe it, you can achieve it. One thing I always say is that the sky is just the limit. So I know that once you have your mindset or locked on something, that and you start to, you start to go, it really and truly starts to manifest. I say God, people out there may say the universe, but it's retroactive. It's almost like it's magnetism in a sense.
Mhm.
You uh you are, what is that? I'm trying to think of that saying. It's like something about, I am that, therefore I am,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
yeah, so it is, it's like, it's I think Julius Caesar said, I came, I saw, I conquered,
Yeah.
so
So
if
did Jay-Z.
yeah, so if you envision, if you, and then I always, I love history. I
Mhm.
love looking back at these great people that came through history, and that it's interesting. Will Smith said that everything that you have possibly thought that you're going through, it's in a book somewhere.
Mhm.
So you can literally, pick up a book, go wherever you need to, and read about these things in real time, and see how these great people, and even they struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing I love about history, is that you realize how everything is very cyclical, right? Like it goes in a cycle, and whether you're thinking about history or just like your life, like, and I think especially in those down moments, it helps you remember like things will get better, no matter how bad it is. Like it's good, like there's a comeback, even if it feels like it's going to take longer. It's still there, right? Um, as you said, affirmations are a wonderful way to create positive self talk. And then ask, what's your go to affirmations? Um, I, for me, it varies. It depends on what I need that day or that time. You know, just I like also listening to IMs. I'm trying to get more consistent about doing guided meditations. That's for me, just trying to clear my mind. I'm an overthinker. I'm always in my mind. So I can't do regular meditation because then I'm just thinking. But I do try to do like guided meditations with affirmations. I find that that helps a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I listen to those, what are like those binary beats and things like that, like different frequencies, and
Hmm.
I may listen to something positive for the day that, like, maybe Denzel Washington said, or I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan, so I believe in that Mamba mentality of just, no matter what, staying hungry, staying focused, staying purposeful, and just being that, being that killer in a sense, metaphorically, not figuratively. Being, just going for it. You being like that. You being like that. The first one to show up, the last one to leave. Being the smartest. Trying to be the smartest person in the room, but always being humble enough. Always being humble enough to know that I can, or you can, still go into different situations, and you're always going to be a lifelong student.
Yes, I think that that's crucial. And a little while ago, you also mentioned, your faith a little bit, and I know that part of what you do and what you teach about is also spiritual wellness. What do you think is really like the intersection between mental health and spiritual wellness? Like, how do they combine together to help with overall life satisfaction?
It's all. I think it's kind of like big. It's almost like uh big picture circumstance. Where what is my, people may ask the question, like, what is my purpose in all of this journey, this life? Why, we ask those. Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Success is not
Gary's
made.
comment: "Success is not made; it's built."
Yeah,
Absolutely,
right.
so true.
Yeah. And it's one of those, it's one of those big picture scenarios where, if you believe in something that's bigger than you, and if you believe in those stories, in the Bible, and like all of these religious books, and it becomes something for you on your path, where you start to internalize in it, and you can like to coin a phrase, go into your metamorphosis period, like the caterpillar, and turn into like this beautiful, powerful, butterfly, where you gain these wings, and it's like all eyes on you now. And
Hmm.
and with that, it's that mental, it's like that mental aspect. People talk about the third eye, and and all of that good stuff. So it helps you to visualize more, helps you to be bolder, and helps you to see the unseen. And you you understand that you're this walking miracle, amongst all, amongst everything that's going on, and that your purpose is big, bold, and beautiful, and that you can stand up, and that you can conquer it.
And I love that you sort of have that, like I said, like that intersection of both, because sometimes I think people feel like you have to have one or the other, right? Like if you're thinking in terms of manifesting and affirmations, then you're not thinking about prayer and things like that. But they really can go hand in hand, into helping you create that life that you want.
Right. And again, I don't believe in pushing on. I don't believe in pushing anything on anybody. What you believe is what you believe. We're all from different walks of life, and I feel like we can all learn something from each other. But for me, prayer, meditation, manifestation, everybody does it a little differently. But we can bridge the gap. We can merge all of these things together, and we can become more powerful. It's almost like it's people when people say it's not. To me, it's what you know and who you know. So it's
Mhm.
like I have this all powerful, all seeing being in my corner. So I'm like, well, even like you said, in the lowest of lows, when you have to kind of sit down and think a little bit, like I just had to sit down. Like I just had one of those moments today. It's like, okay, well, what am I? What's next for me? And I had to. It's like sometimes you have to kind of sit down, and you have to take inventory of your life. And you're like, well, okay, well, I have this that I'm not using. So let me just dust this off and use this again. So, but that's a part of, that's just a part of the soul journey, as I like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we're on that journey, what do you think the role of like just daily habits and routines play into that, into having that mental and spiritual wellness?
It's very powerful. I always tell people that your spiritual journey, your life journey, is going to be unique. It is going to, it's going to feel different. Even though, like I said earlier, we can read the books, and we can go online, we can hear all of these people's stories, and that can, that can give us more confidence in a sense like that. But you're naturally the person that's going to show up. But the beautiful thing about it is that, for me, I know that I have God, I have my angel guides, I have my ancestors, so I have armies within armies, and even though within the physical sense, it may just be me going out there doing these things. I know that I know that with them I can, I can do all things, and I can, I can make these things. I can literally make the intangible become tangible, in the sense of it.
Yeah. Yes. And Charles said, awesome conversation. And as you said, is your book for a specific age group, which is actually the perfect transition into my next question, which was going to be, as a writer, like how do you use storytelling, narratives, affirmations, things like that to convey that resiliency and hope and mental strength for people? And then also, as you said, like, is it for a specific age range?
No, no, you know what, I said this book, I say Lyrical Soul is a love letter from the young all the way to the older. Everybody can use an encouraging word. It's just like you said. Your mom will tell you every day. These powerful things. You're like, yeah, okay, mom, okay, 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 okay. But when you get, we don't appreciate these things until we get a little older. Maybe we move out of the house, and we don't, hear them as much. And you're
Mhm.
like, oh man, I wish, I wish somebody could, like, I wish I could hear these words, like going out into like corporate America or whatever, when it's a very much so different kind of animal. out
Mhm.
here, when you're grown and you're adulting, so to speak. So
Yeah.
just to let kids, don't be in a hurry to grow up. They lie to us.
Facts.
Like, listen, listen, take your time and be young and enjoy it. Seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but there's really no there's really like no age group to it. And these, my books to be found on Amazon or my website. But yeah, so there's really like naturally no age group, because I always say uh words are powerful. Words can be a weapon either for something negative or for something positive. And these weapons in the right hands can be like, masterful.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
especially, I always say, I always say, catch the kids as young as possible. It's never too late, but it's always good to catch them when they're very young.
Yeah, that building that foundation is crucial. And the older I get, the more I realize how important it is, especially for younger kids.
Right.
Um, yes, those sayings and stories stick with us and click in adulthood. Absolutely. There are things that you hear growing up along the way that you're like, okay, kind of in one ear and out the other ears, but sometimes they really do click when you get older. And something that I've realized is as we take in just the world, right? Like people speaking, the books we read, the things we do, people, their words impact us in different ways. And I think a lot of times people want to be that spark for that person, right? Like that, oh, I spoke this and the person went, oh wow, I understood everything. But sometimes you're just the person planting the seed that maybe later someone else will say it and they'll plant. Or maybe your words are watering that seed. You're helping the seed that someone else plant grow. And then later on, there'll be that spark. So I think it's always important, and I think it's great that we have people like you writing the books, doing the keynote speeches, because sometimes people don't want to speak up because they're like, oh, there's already a million people saying that. But you never know when you're going to be the person saying it the right way that person needs to hear it to plant that seed, water that seed, or spark that seed. So I think it's incredibly crucial, like you said, to have that available for people.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's almost like when I saw that the first time I saw that movie, The Matrix. And for every Neo, there's a Morpheus. So Morpheus was the person that said like, there's something different. You are the one.
Mm-hmm.
And but somebody can tell you that, but along the way, you have to be, with some bumps and bruises, you'll figure it out. Like people always told me all my life, like there's something different about you. I've heard this all my life. And until maybe a few years ago, I was like, oh, okay. I see what they're saying. I'm very different. I'm
Yeah.
very, very different. That's probably you could attest to because you're not like these individuals out here. You probably could be intimidated into some people because you're a thinker. You're very powerful,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just like that. It's just coming to a grassroots understanding of naturally who you are through
Yeah.
through your journey.
No, and that's so, and that resonates with me so much because you're absolutely right. Like I've always sort of been told it my whole life, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, okay. But this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is unless you believe it, you're not really going to be able to do anything with it. So like when people told me I had a gift or that I was different, because I didn't really believe it, I thought I was actually different on the bad way. Like, why aren't I like everyone else? Why don't I fit in? Why do I think so differently than everyone else? This is awful.
Right.
And then like I reached a point literally like around 30 where I was like, okay, maybe I'm good in all the ways that like maybe I'm different, but not in a bad way, in a good way. And that's when I started sort of leaning into the gifts and the talents and my blessings. And it's sort of like, oh, like that kind of like the levy or the ease came from that, from giving into that and acknowledging the difference instead of trying to fight it. And I think so many people want so much to be normal and to fit in, not realizing that their gifts and talents lie in not being normal. It's the fact that you don't fit in, and it's the fact that you think differently is your gift and talent, and that's what you should be focused on.
Right. If the you're right. It's a blessing that people notice it and acknowledge, especially you.
Thank
Very
you.
much so. That is so. Just talking to somebody, that's amazing how it comes full circle. Just talking to somebody about that, how somebody would, somebody may see you and say like, wow, I would love for you to come out and speak here, or would love for you to come and work with us on this, so you never know until you know where the journey is going to take you. Was looking at an interview with a young lady on the Breakfast Club, and she was like, she wrote music for over, she said maybe like 8 to 10 years before she really got her big break, so to speak.
Mhm.
And she was like, and I asked her, well, what kept you going? Because she was like, there's always this voice inside of her. I said, well, if you quit, today could be the day. Today could be the day. Today could
Yeah.
be the day. So you never know. No, I was just talking to her. That's interesting. Where your big break is going to come from.
Mhm.
You never know. Like a major network may see this and may say like, hey, you know what? We want to pay you X amount of whatever to
Mhm.
do what you do best. So it's like, so you never know until you know.
And you also have to always have that confidence in yourself,
Right.
especially if you're someone who thinks different. The word innovator is innovator for a reason. And if everybody could be an innovator or visionary, it wouldn't stand out. But the problem with that sometimes is that you are literally ahead of the curve or ahead of what people are able to see. And it's very easy to take in other people's doubt about you, about your thoughts and ideas. And you really have to get to the point using some of those affirmations you mentioned, building that self confidence, that mental strength to say like, okay, well, if I can't get a seat at your table, I'm going to build my own until you see what I'm capable of. And so many people, I think, just hear no and think, okay, never mind, when really they can hear it and think of it as a way to challenge, to create, and to build for themselves.
Hmm. That's very, very, very true. Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree with you on that 100%.
And Charles said earlier, we need more positive affirmations. There's too much junk out there nowadays. Couldn't agree more. Now I know you showed us your book for women. Is that your only book, or you have other books as well?
No, yeah. So I have two books here. This is the first book that I ever wrote. This is Soul of a Man: Poetry for the Mind, Body, and Soul. Called this my mixtape, so to speak. Because it talks about different. In this one book there are like many different aspects of poetry entitled into one book. That's why I said it's the soul of a man, because we embody so much, and we're not just like these we're not like just these one trick ponies in a sense, because people love to um people love to put you in a box, but I always say go where the love is. And
Mhm.
there is so much love out there. um one thing people can say is, like, hey, I want to go, I want to go where I'm loved and where I'm valued and where I can be uh greatly appreciated, and where my talents and gifts can be most utilized.
Yeah. And I think that that's important, is finding, my quote is, your vibe attracts your tribe, because so much
Right.
time
Yes.
people think that it's them, right? They think like, oh, this is me, there's something wrong with me. You're not in your right tribe. You're not with your right people. And you need to find that. And part of that finding that comes from finding yourself first. And so, when you talk about mental health and mental wellness, what are some ways that people can really sort of try to get and tap into themselves, right? Because you sort of have to find that before you can stand on it and not be swayed by it. You have to find yourself. You have to hear your own inner voice so that other people's voices don't sway you. So what are some ways that people can build that inner fortitude?
Well, you can find when you find it in the voice and quiet and stillness, and the peace and the tranquility. So wherever that is for you, if it's at home, if it's in your room, if it's listening to music, if it's taking a ride somewhere, if it's by the beach in the park, or it could be somewhere loud. Everybody's, everybody out here is just a little different and a little unique within that, but that's okay, and finding it within yourself and finding it within the things that you truly love to do. Looking at what it is that, maybe you're a writer, maybe you like to draw, maybe you're someone who likes to hold a masterful concert in the shower, where you feel like you're the greatest singer in the world. But we know differently, because I know how I sound in the shower, and singing is not my gift.
Yeah.
So it is, it's finding it's just finding those moments, maybe through creativity, or that inner voice of the inspiration can come through a great conversation like this, or just with the talk, for many of your colleagues. So it could come from, different ways, but a lot of it comes from in your passions.
Mm. Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier that you're having a little bit of a moment today, where you're trying to figure out like where do I go next? What do I do? Like what is some advice you would have from people who might be struggling with finding their purpose or their meaning in life?
One thing, the word says, you ask not because you have not. So sometimes you have to ask, and when you get the answer, you have to get started. You gotta you have to move. Now, we got social media, we have the internet. These are things that maybe, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years ago, technology wasn't where it is now. So, you have so much more, you have so much more help now. You have so many different ways now to reach out, to be seen, to be bold enough to go out there and step out and say, okay, world, okay, world, here I am, like, give me the microphone, stand back and let me go to work. So you know, now is a great time for now is a great time for people to just really to step up. And I think one thing is to truly to find that love within yourself. Ask yourself, okay, because when we're kids, we are just so on fire. The world hasn't really kind of came and did what the world does to us, in the
Hmm.
sense, and we have all of these dreams, and we don't just necessarily have that person, as people saying, okay, well, just go do this one thing, when we're talented and we have so many different passions in many different things.
Hmm.
So I say, out of many, one. So it's important. I say, especially if maybe you're a little younger, or now, try what it is that start where with what you love in this world, and you will find that's where you're loved as well.
Yeah, that's so crucial. And some of the comments, Charles said, "Go where you are celebrated and not tolerated," which
Right.
is huge, and it really does make all the difference in how you navigate spaces, right? Where you're hunched up trying to fit in, knowing that you don't, and you're being tolerated, versus when you can just have the ease, let your shoulders down, and be who you truly are around people that celebrate you. I think that makes a huge difference. Um, and Izzy said, "Thank you for tuning in, William Bird." Yes, thank you, William. Everyone says hi. And William Bird said hi to the Feel Good family and special guests. So thank you all for joining. Um, you mentioned social media. I'm all over social media, well, partly because it's my job, managing and creating content for people, but just for my own engagement. And it's social media to me is such a double-edged sword because it's so wonderful, right? It's so great. You can find communities of people that you like, the things that make you feel like you are alone. You find other people who have the same thing or are going through the same thing. So it's wonderful, but then there's that dark side, right? The people who, as you mentioned earlier, are just keyboard warriors. They're just saying whatever they want behind their keyboards to drag you down, to make you feel awful. What do you think are, like, with the role when we talk about technology and social media? How do you think it influences our mental health, and like how can we use those platforms in a more mindful way?
you, the important, I heard somebody, I think it was a college professor, and he was talking about like the advent of artificial intelligence with AI, because now all of these apps are popping up all over the place. And he said, use it as a tool or an extension of yourself. And he said it's a tool. It doesn't. You say you control it. It doesn't control you. So
Mm,
that's because people can make social media, people can get on here and become whoever they want to be, be good, bad, or indifferent.
yeah.
But when they're not on here, you still have to live, very much so. Yeah, it can be very helpful and harmful, like to young men and women that might say, well, you got to look like this, and that's not a great aesthetic, because everybody looks different. Everybody looks different. Everybody sounds different. Everybody walks different. Everybody's gonna have a very much so different introspective and retrospective when it comes to life, so to speak, and how they see and view things and how they're taking in that information. I
Hmm.
you know I always say like this, take what you need, leave the rest behind. Sometimes it's good. Somebody told me the other day, turn when you're going to sleep at night, turn your phone off. Just turn it off, go to sleep, and rest. And maybe throughout the day, just but like you said, it's your job to be on social media. But just even within that, it's good to go outside, get some fresh air, turn off your phone,
Hmm.
and go into nature. Still see what a be. Take a trip somewhere. To
Yeah.
still see what a very much so beautiful world it is ahead. But yeah, social media is it is that's why you have to be careful of who and what you are following. Yeah, that's very, very, very true. So,
Hmm.
I would say don't let social media become like your god in a sense like that, where you're worshiping,
Yeah.
it, because you still have control within your life. A
Hmm.
lot of in as beautiful and as powerful as social media or the internet can be, we can really and truly get sucked into it, and we can let that control our lives, so to speak.
Yeah. But and you, as you said, you control it. It doesn't control you. And Charles even said that's why you have to be careful who or what you're following, because it's so true. And I think sometimes people don't realize how much of a world you create for yourself through social media. Like the things that appear on your search page, on your different things, it's not random. It's a direct result of what you feed into. So the more you click on positive, happy things, the more you see those. The more you click on negative things, the more you see those. And that's why we sometimes will run into people who are like, oh, all that's being talked about is A, B, and C. And they'll talk to someone who's like, I barely ever see that. Well, that tells you that that's what you're clicking on. And a lot of people, unfortunately, I think, click on the negative and click on the things that upset them and engage with them instead of ignoring it and feeding into the positive things. So that way, then you are fed more of those positive things. So I think that that's crucial.
Right. It's almost like saying, I'm gonna meal prep every day so that I can lose weight, instead of going out to eat with my coworkers, XYZ, because this is gonna save me money, and also it's gonna make me a heck of a lot more healthier.
Hmm. Yep. So, I mean, thank you for joining me to have this conversation. I think that you put out really great work. As we talk about being careful of who you follow and being careful of what you take in, you do a good job of making sure that your space is one that breeds positivity and gives life and all of those things. So, thank you for that message. And if you just want to talk again, just a little bit about letting people know where they can find you and your books and things like that, we'd love that.
So you can find me all over social media. It's Soul of a Man 504, on TikTok and on YouTube and on Facebook. It's my government name, Demond Alverez, and and also on Instagram, Soul of a Man 504. Yeah, so basically it's Soul of a Man 504. All across the board on social media.
Perfect. And before I let you go, is there anything that you would want anyone who's taking this in and maybe they're going through a difficult time or they're trying to figure things out? Like, what message would you want to leave with them?
The important thing to know is that trouble, well, one, trouble doesn't last always. It really and truly doesn't, even though you may feel like, oh, woe is me. This is going on in my life, that's going on in my life, never quite know until you hear somebody else's story. Or until you know what somebody else is naturally going, you have to go through to go to something, and
Mm,
that's just what it is. I know we wanted to appear out of thin air, and yeah, things are going to really start to move fast out here. With your manifestations and all of that. And I'm all great for thinking positive and all of that good stuff. But there are going to be times when you just don't feel like it. You just don't feel like getting out of bed and whatever. And sometimes you may just need that day, to just relax, to just be by yourself, and that's okay. And then just to let people know, it's okay to be you. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique, and it's okay to not follow the crowd, so to speak,
yeah,
and to
absolutely.
forge your own path in this life and in this world.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has really been a great conversation. I appreciate getting your knowledge and your insight to things. Izzy said, thank you, great conversation. Charles said, no one can be you but you. Absolutely. I always say
That's
you can
true,
give people your recipe, but only if you've got the secret sauce. So,
right?
be you. So I love that. But thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, everybody, for joining from home. We will be back next week. It's going to be a little bit more of a serious topic because, I mean, this is serious as well, but it's April is also Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So I have Dr. Lexi with us, who is a sexologist, and we're going to just talk about some trauma around that and dealing with that, warning signs, all of those things that are important to know, uncomfortable to talk about, but important to know. So please join us next week at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you.